We're about to do the thing. Where all of us
Talking the Tonys is the king.
just underline. Hey everybody, and welcome back to an all-new X's for Show, the show where we bring you the best media has to offer, and I could not be more excited than to bring you today's program. But to who I am Nico. You can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at NicoAction. That's NicoAction. And then these guys.
I'm TK. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at xnateXgrayX.
And that makes me Kevo. I'm the guy who pushes the buttons, and you can find me at Kevo Really, KEVOREALLY.
And we are here to do it Danza, to sing it Shaloub, Okay, that's all the Tonys I know.
Pizza.
Yeah, I'm so excited because one of the things that we've loved so much on this program here on X's for Show is talking about the different things that make our fandom. You know, we started out with comics, and we also had HTML. We talked about a lot of movies, a lot of TV, and it was about time to bring it all together. And that brings us to the opportunity to talk about everything we love. And one of those things is the Tonys, Broadway, musical theater in general. And that is, of course, why I'm decked out like I am going to a high school prom, because nothing says the Tonys like high school prom. So, something that maybe everybody doesn't know about me is I'm an aspiring musical writer and opera writer, librettist. You can check out my work on my SoundCloud. But like musicals, Tonys, that's something that like really means something to me. And how about you guys?
Kevo, you go ahead.
Fair enough. We are the Disney Renaissance generation, I feel, and so that was definitely something that imprinted on many of us growing up in the first place. But also just a general musical theater is A-okay type upbringing. The school play was a big deal, as big at least as like the sports were, which, were also not that big a deal. So it's just, it was just one of those things. And so I fell in with a crowd that was high on musical theater. And so it developed from there. I saw more shows than I could count for you off the top of my head the summer between senior year of high school and college. And just always generally enjoyed them. They're fun. It's not something that I like perhaps have the same breadth and passion as Nico. But yeah, definitely would say a musical guy.
I will say the way that the two of you talk now, it feels like the passion is pretty equal. Not in any kind of bad way, but
we've probably met in the middle, I think.
Yeah, it's very, that is a shared thing in your relationship. For all I really don't engage now, I used to be very into theater for myself, musical theater as a thing. Early 90s, I saw like every musical that I can get my hands on. I mean, right off the top of my head, the ones that I really fell in love with were like Cats, The Secret Garden, even Phantom of the Opera, which I saw in London, which was very cool.
Secret Garden. Kevo, can you say out loud? I mean, Secret Garden. That's one that our JoJo loves. And
Secret Garden. Yeah.
And he's over in the studio with Kevo right now, kind of just doing his own thing. But Secret Garden's one he definitely loves. So
Secret Garden remains one of my favorite musicals to this day.
Nice.
I had a weird thing where like the last musical I saw for a very long time, we were just talking about this, was The Lion King in 2000 2000, maybe just 2001, where my parents brought me to soften the blow later that night when they were announced they were getting a divorce. We combined that with a far too expensive private school with a fantastic theater program that like couldn't manage to put on a stage play, let alone a musical, and then going to NYU, home of programs like Cap 21. I just became very disenfranchised with musical theater really hard from 14 to 18 in a way that like I never recovered from until I met these guys who reminded me why I thought it was cool in the first place. But it really went from like a big passion to just like, it was a food poisoning thing. Like just a bad taste got left over a period of time.
That's like when you fell out of love with Disney. Like for a while, he was not a Disney guy, and then you if it's something that it's meant to be, you find your way back or you don't, and that's lovely.
The last play that I saw was The Drowsy Chaperone in 2008, maybe?
Harriet Sansom Harris bringing down the house in her Tony Award-winning role alongside Foughton Suster, everybody's favorite.
Foughton Suster.
Yeah, everybody's favorite ice cream dessert. I love ordering a Foughton Suster whenever I'm out at Lindy's.
Doing the Lindy Hop.
Everybody's favorite Gilmore Girls guest star. That's what she's known for, right?
Stars hollow. I have to admit, whenever Aaron Sorkin says a New York sense of humor, I'm sure I'm not what he had in mind, but it is. So I want to sort of just jump in with like one of the things that's so cool about theater and the experience of theater is you have so many different ways you can experience theater, whether it's the magic of regional touring casts, where these are unbelievable performers bringing the experience of having performed all over the world this show and knowing how to make it exactly right for this audience. Or it's the luxury of where we're from, the Northeast, where we can just kind of like hop, skip over to Broadway. But like I grew up on some of the finest performers giving some of the finest performances. And like I just feel so spoiled for it because it makes things that should be a little bit more magical. Maybe sometimes I'm like, oh, but where's Patty? Patty LaPone, because we're on a first name basis, obviously. But
she was down in Atlanta filming Coven of Chaos.
And
that's true.
I grew up like really lucky that like my dad is like the most theater-ish you can be. I'm so lucky that he really encultured a sense of theater in our home. And so when his son came out, a screaming homosexual, he also has a very...
it's more of a belting homosexual. The scream is very musical.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Sometimes it's scream.
It varies. But one of the things that I really love about having grown up in the Northeast and having had an opportunity to still connect with Broadway is like my senior year, my school put on my first musical. It was restaged at my college while I was there, and like I've been working in theater for a long time, and I have access to such an incredible wealth that like things like the Tonys mean something to me, not because I necessarily think it says what's the most important, but something I can't help but notice is the way the Tonys influence the way theater happens around the world, the way theater happens around the country, what gets made into a movie, what's considered the hot ticket, it's always that thing of like, I remember the episode where Jamie gives birth on Mad About You. She goes into Braxton Hicks. Did you hear that, Jonah? The Braxton Hicks contractions. And she...
goading the boy.
Fran shows up. Fran, who I can't think of the actress's name, but she's tremendous.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes, no, it's no big deal. It's just at rent. And tickets are just $2,000 a piece. It's no big deal. And... then the Hamilton reference.
Yeah, the Hamilton joke of its day. Yeah.
And then Hamilton being in like Weekend Update and,
Once Upon a Time season 6 finale. There's a reference to them being impossible to get even with magic. And it's, yeah.
And like the enculturation of the memeagery of Ben Platt is an old man. Ben Platt is an old man, and Leah Michele.
That wasn't regional though. That belonged to the world.
That's what I'm saying. And Ben Platt, but like also Leah Michele, would never be able to come at me if I made a joke about her illiteracy because she wouldn't be able to read my name. So
she can't find you.
I'm safe. I just think it's really amazing the way these shows, these like 20 theaters, have such an impact on the world. And they're rarely the first place to get these shows. They are rarely the first iteration. These shows appear all over the world first. So I just wanted to take a minute to kind of be like, theater isn't just these 21 houses and these 200 actors. Theater is everywhere somebody has the spirit of putting on a show, because I can tell you this much. I do consider myself a playwright and a librettist, and I can tell you that I have never been performed on one of those stages. However, quick little faggy claim to fame. My senior year at my freshman year at Kane University, there was a program called Kane Stages, and the cast of Rent, the then active cast of Rent, 8 of them came to my college, and you had to audition, and you had to be in the theater program, and you had to be an upperclassman with X many credits. And I didn't know that, and I walked in, and I just said to my theater professor, "Can I audition anyway?" And she was like, and I was like, "I'm here."
Did you really not know?
I really didn't know. I just heard it and I wanted to do it. And like, I heard you could be
I believe
staged into Rent, and I was just like, I don't care. I'm just going to show up. And my theater professor was like, "You want to audition?" And I was like, "Yes." She was like, "What do you have prepared?" And I was like, "I have prepared an unforgettable performance of Embraceable You." And she was like, "Shut up. I'll let you do it. But that was too stupid. Do something better. You're trying to audition for Rent." And I was like, "Can I just do something from Rent?" And she was like, "Sure." And so she put me in Rent. And the cast was incredible.
What did you do? Now you have to tell us. You can't tell that whole story.
I honestly don't remember.
Fine, come back to it.
I think I just did a bit from Rent. I don't. It was on the spot. I didn't play on a CD. But she, put me in the show, and it was a really unforgettable experience. And it's one of those things where, like, I have this clear memory of they threw a dinner for us, and so we're all having dinner together, and I'm telling a story that I know is a common bit of fandom. And there were 2 sisters who were both connected to Jonathan Larson. They both knew him, and they were then ultimately in the show, and both partially the inspiration for the iteration of Mimi that's in the performance. And they are Yasmin and Carmine Allers. And it just should be said that I think Carmine Allers is one of the finest women to ever grace the role of Mimi. Just an unbelievable performer. I had always been a big fan. And so then we're at this dinner together, and I'm saying to her, well, and that was the time that Yaz almost went on, and she cuts me off mid-sentence, and she goes, "Sweetie, that's my sister. Are you just calling her Yaz like you know her?" And I was like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry."
That imprinted on you real hard.
And she just goes, "You know what, honey? You remind me of my first prom date. He was so gay and so sweet." And I was like, if the takeaway is that I'm sweet and not appropriative, I love it. And so and the cast was just incredible, and the idea of getting to connect with a show like that, maybe that's why I've never been able to let go of one. I mean, I've wanted to write musicals for years before that, and I've written and had my own performed, but like I just could never. I'll never forget what it felt like for this show that's always meant so much to me to make room in their world for me. And then we were showing Jonah some scenes from Red earlier, and I'm doing the choreography, and I can't help it. And because I learned it from the dance captain. So like, I feel like it's special that I know it's the same choreography that you'd learn if you watched it on YouTube. It's not special, but that idea of being there.
But no one else learned it direct.
Well, and that's what makes live theater a little bit different than movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, movies are incredible. I love movies, but a movie's kind of static except the way you read it. A play changes every night. I remember one time I saw Rent, and it was Manly Pope and Joey Fatone in Roger and Mark. And that night, out of nowhere, Manly Pope gave Joey Fatone like a kiss on the cheek in this really pivotal scene. And I was like, that completely changes the scene. And like, that's what's so cool. One little change in the stage direction for 1 minute transforms the show. And like, the shows we're here to talk about today, I can see Kevo has the beautiful graphic up. The shows we're here to talk about today are just such incredible shows. I would love to get that up so we can just see some of them.
Yeah, you got it.
The unbelievable number of shows up for the nomination. We have And Juliet, Almost Famous, Bad Cinderella. The Neil Diamond musical, A Beautiful Noise. Kimberly Akimbo, I Root for You So Hard. K-pop, We Never Should Have Lost You. You Should Be Running Today. New York, New York. Shucked, my personal top runner. Some Like It Hot. Mimi, if you're watching, we root for your Mimi. Anything you want, baby. I love you. We had
Mama Meme.
Mama Mimi. Whew. We have our revivals of 1776, Bob Fosse's Dancin. I hate how small Fosse's name is on that playbill. We have Camelot by Aaron Sorkin and also everyone else. We have Into the Woods, which will never be off Broadway for more than 5 years. We have I can't believe I have to say, number 2. Any other season, this would be my number 1 pick for revival. But Parade, even Ben Platt won me over. Never expected that. But of course, my number 1 musical of all time, the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning. My favorite piece of fiction ever on a stage, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, the finest piece of musical theater ever written. I just can't say enough good things about it. It is
featuring who?
Annalee Ashford.
Who?
That kid from Stranger Things.
Who?
Okay, listen. Josh Groban won me over so hard here. The tonal quality he puts.
Who's the one that I love from it?
Todd. Like, he's really like the resonance. I was maybe a little bit surprised by how soft some of his hits were, but I really, really, really was impressed. Kevin, I thought you loved Annalee Ashford, the Mrs.
Jordan
Love.
Fisher.
Oh, right. Jordan Fisher. Yeah. So I just can't say enough good things about this slate of shows. Kevo, TK, did either of you have any real experience with any of these beforehand? And I will accept films or genres of music that whole shows are named after. But much like the Tony Awards, I will not accept a city featuring reused songs as an original score.
No, very, very little experience for me. The most I probably have is with Sweeney Todd, and that experience is you two making me watch a lot of it, which has been very fun. I've learned a lot about the Toddiverse, as it were. And
you know that you are part of Nico's pack when he makes you watch like the first third of one production of Sweeney Todd and never comes back to it.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first half of like 3, but we definitely didn't come back to it. So
no.
Oh gosh, I mean, a lot of the other ones I really don't have experience with, other than their source material. Almost Famous, obviously, that was a big movie from our time. I can't say I would have elected to see it made into anything other than an immersive GTA style video game in which you beat up rock stars because they all deserve it. But we went with Play instead. Who would have thunk?
I do love that though.
K-pop, is it a lifestyle or is it a play? Who can say? I'll never find out because apparently it's not running anymore. But had I realized in time, I might have gone to see that. I love the work of Bob Fosse so much that I would truly be. I mean, so many of these, it's such a I would be so lucky to just go see one. Actually, the biggest one that really made me think that was as I was on my way to see you last week, and I got off the train on 3rd Avenue to walk to the train station. I passed by the theater that Shucked is in, and saw all the signs, and I thought that would probably be really cool. That would be really fun. And it's, I believe, across the street from the theater where Aladdin is playing, and I thought I don't want to see that.
It's
Al.
It's fine. Or is it just Din? Yeah, how about Laddie? Okay, I have to be honest. My shirt is hypnotizing me, and I can't do it anymore. So what we need to do is, number 1, we need to bring in a tour de force, Tori de force.
Also,
queen.
if I may, the violet one might look really nice, especially with the purple accents in your background.
Well, thank you. But the queen herself, our very own Broadway goddess, Tori.
Our stage queen.
Our stage manager. Tori, come in and tell us what we got to know to get going. What is your experience with these shows? And Well, let me ask a better question.
Take bottom.
Do you have any experience with theater or Broadway?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Have you heard of any of these?
Do you know what
terms?
Broadway is?
Hi,
Do we need
folks.
to explain theater?
You want me to mansplain
I'm
to you
actually
musicals?
about to correct 50% of Nico's opening monologue. Let's get into this. Hi, folks. My name is Tori Sheehan. You can find me on the internet at smtori on Instagram and at Tori_Sheehan on the Twitters. Welcome to my bread and butter, folks. I much like Kevo, started off in theater in high school because in middle school I made the terrible decision to try out for Peter Pan and Oliver by singing an a cappella version of Christmas Shoes, and somehow I was not chosen with my incredible
I have no
tone
memory of
deafness.
that.
It's amazing. And anyway,
I was a boy. I barely needed to sing.
Yeah, you just we had several boys that would show up at our high school auditions and sing Your Grand Old Flag and then get like lead supporting actor. What's up? And then I got into high school. I became a stage manager. I loved it far more than anything else. And so then I went to school for it at good old Ithaca College, home of last year's leading performance by a male artist, Aaron Tveit, who never actually graduated and hated it there, but that's fine. I have done, I've had 10 years of professional stage management, unionized experience under my belt. I have worked on a show that was a Broadway show, but only in rehearsals. I worked on Nathan Lane's show that they did, and I cannot believe that it is escaping me right now because my brain is literally falling out of my ears. But it was a wonderful show about that was actually a play about 1930s, 40s New York.
Pictures from Home?
And gays. No, he's in that this season. And he prefers his corned beef with mustard, not mayonnaise. Ooh, I know.
I get that.
Yeah. So I've been doing this for a long time. The Tonys are my Super Bowl. I used to live tweet these things. I have a pretty decent idea of how like these things go. If anyone do you want like the like basics of like what makes a show on Broadway versus off Broadway, like what all of that kind of stuff? Do we need that? Oh, he's changing shirts.
I have the boss next to me. What do you think?
The boss. I mean, we can start off with the fact that there's 43 Broadway theaters, not 20.
I'm live on air and you're talking to me. Oh. He's just like casually standing at the closet like,
I hear the words like pecs out gyrating was used for, I believe, both Bad Cinderella and several others this season. So it's great that we got some shirtless.
Yeah.
It's actually really interesting to me that we have a bunch of past Pulitzer Prize winners of drama in the original play category this year. I know we've got musicals up right now, but the fact that we have three. And if I had my guess, if they were going to pick a show that's on Broadway this season, we're going to Fat Ham is probably going to get it, mostly because Leopoldstadt is not about the American experience, which is an important part of the Pulitzer for drama. I love that so many of these shows came from the off-Broadway world. I love that so many of them spent a lot of time in the regionals. I have a lot of thoughts on how these shows are going to do once they close out in the regional theaters, and like how many of them are going to be those kinds of decisions. But yeah, like the reason why some shows are Broadway and some shows aren't is because it's about size of theater within a certain geographical circle. Then off-Broadway is a certain size of theater in a wider geographical circle. Off-Broadway is barely a thing. And again, wider geographical, but generally more south. And then you can get into like the League of Regional Theaters. There's like 5 of them in New York City.
Lord.
One of them's Lincoln Center. So yeah. And then I have lots of lots and lots of thoughts about how these shows are going to shake out, and a little bit of tea about some of these. So I'm excited.
Now, I just want to go on record as saying, it's so funny that like whenever Tori comes on, I'm just like, Tori, tell me what to think. Because, it's the nature of our relationship. It's very give and take. It's very like, introduce me to this world, help me understand this world. And one of the things that I really do love is that as somebody who loves an industry, you always think you understand it. Even as somebody who wants to get into it, because you're sold a bill of goods by the people in the industry as to what it takes to get in.
Oh yeah.
But when you meet somebody with the I hate to put it this way, but the scars, it wasn't that you came to me and were like, oh sweetie, you don't know that much. It's that you came to me and said, you have a great understanding as somebody on the outside looking in. My perspective is a little bit more informed by experience. So let me show you things that maybe you don't understand from the outside. And it's really been a valuable thing for me as, it's changed how I write even, because one of the things you said to me is you should just write it. Don't worry about the size of the theater. Don't worry about the production. Just make the show. And that's become something that I define a lot of these shows by, where I can taste the artifice. Bad Cinderella.
She ain't that great, but it's also about things like I know how much it costs for a show to go up, what it costs every week to keep that train moving, and how many seats they're going to have to sell in each of these to go through the thing. How the fact that you can bet that as we head towards a recession, we're heading towards more properties that are already known entities. There's very few chances being taken. I actually think that K-pop would have done a lot better if Broadway still wasn't recovering from COVID. It would have been given a much larger shot at things.
That runway design, those LED walls, the really intricate, developed choreography.
And that the global tourism would have shown up for it, which has not returned to New York yet, and is part of the reason why Phantom is no more in New York City. Because it was relying primarily upon global tourism, because within a year, everyone in New York City and the tri-state has seen your show. Within the first 3 years, everyone on the East Coast and from Chicago over has seen it. By 5 years, the entire US and Canada has seen it. And after 5 years, you're relying on China, you're relying on England, Europe, India, you're relying on all of these things, and you can't sustain. I would not be shocked if we lost a couple more of major juggernauts. My guess is maybe like a Chicago or a Cabaret. Lion King's not going anywhere because they're going for that longest running crowd, and they've got Disney behind them. But I could see they own that building. They own that building, and also they're fighting for the fact that they don't want a casino put into that building right now, which is a huge thing that's coming up right now. So anyway, off topic. Oh Jonah, I'm so sorry that you lived. Your life has been completely. Phantom lived twice as long as you did on Broadway, and it's a shame you won't get to see it, but you'll see it somewhere else, and definitely get those orchestra seats, because having a chandelier come crashing down on your head, they do it a lot faster in Australia. So head on down to Sydney.
Ooh. I am not a Phantom guy.
It's just a standard, and now that it's gone, it's a lot less of a standard.
It's a standard, and also it's about when you see it, because I got it when I was 15, 16. And as anyone who knows my psyche and knows how I roll with my preferred fictional characters, Eric sobbing in the bottom of an opera house.
That is her type. 100%.
Oh my God. Took me 10 years to undo that toxicity.
And also, I saw it $40 standing room. So, absolutely worth my dollar, no matter who is in it when it's that much.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about, how you see it.
So, yeah. So
I'm gonna direct the show a little bit. And
because it's going to be a chaos gremlin all the way down.
All the way down. Now, we did not listen to the full score of every show. I've heard the full score of a number of these. Some of these I can kind of sing back to front. The amount of Camelot I have memorized shocks me.
I've done Camelot. We did Camelot. It was one of my last shows that I worked on.
It's one of those shows where the score is haunting in a really plain way. Does that describe it right?
Yes. It is. It is repetitive, and every time someone does it, they try to chop it down more. And so, while what Aaron Sorkin did to Camelot is not quite as interesting or convoluted as what he did to Kill a Mockingbird, it is definitely something that is going to haunt that show.
So, I want to start with we looked at every show. And one of the things that we tried to come up with was an understanding of what the average theater person, theater goer might think. Not necessarily what the Nikos who want to write theater or the Tories that work in professional theater think, but moreover, what would TK coming to New York with his incredible partner Jake think? What would show contributor and co-creator Kyle, if he and his husband Steven bounced back over to the East Coast for a minute, what would they go see and how would they feel about it? And to kind of go through this list for a minute, I also want to point out that there is a list of perceived possible Tony nominations out there from Time Out New York, which is, according to a very reliable Tesori source, T source, that lady, according to her, everyone look at her, with completely provable content. She, was able to send me links. This is a dubious guesswork.
It's dubious guesswork. It's a very hopeful guesswork on Time Out's part. Time Out is definitely giving a lot more credence to more plays of color than the Tony nominators and the Tony voters ever will. I think they do a lot better on the musicals, because actually this year's musicals are a shorter list than what they are, and the ones that are bad are very bad, and the ones that are good are very good, and there's not a whole lot of middle. But I think that they made some choices that I don't think will be reflected when Leah Michelle gets up there.
So I want to start with And Juliet, which okay.
So this is original musicals.
Yeah, these are the original musical. Well,
yes.
Original musicals, we say.
Well,
so,
it's the category.
It's the category for original musicals.
No,
none of them have been seen on Broadway before.
Right. I was being playful and making a joke.
Yeah.
To start with,
I'm with you.
And Juliet, I find that we are at an age where we're doing jukebox musicals with 7 songs by a single artist. This is basically a Max Martin jukebox musical, and it features 6 to 7 Britney Spears songs, 4 to 5 Backstreet Boys songs, some NSYNC, some Robin, some Kesha, 1 original song. I know there's also a lot of controversy in a good way surrounding this show with it's not good way?
I mean, not a good way for the Tonys as an entity.
Oh, no, I mean in a good way for, gender rights and yeah. 1,000%. I'm no offense, Tonys. I'm more, that's the thing. I think that's even what it is. Tori, you come at it from such a brilliant business perspective, but I'm I will die for this art.
Oh, I will die for this art too, but I also know how the game is played.
Right. No, you also know the business perspective. I don't have that. So I'm just coming at it from
You're
I
too
will
passionate.
die for this. You have both.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am famously not that into jukebox musicals. They don't really do it for me. That said, I love that this might get people to the theater that would never go otherwise. I think this is a really great way to get tourists feeling like there's something for them here. I'm a fan of this. Yeah,
I definitely think that, Justin David Sullivan's opting out of the Tony nominations, telling them to expand their reach, is definitely a thing that we need to be talking about it, and we'll come back to it more once we get to Some Like It Hot. But for me, I'm not as bothered by jukebox musicals, particularly when they are trying to reflect an era And
Mm-hmm.
and I think when you're taking something as old as Romeo and Juliet, this is actually the smartest use of a jukebox musical.
For sure.
And I think I enjoy the use of more popular contemporary music in this more than I enjoyed it in Moulin Rouge last year.
Moulin Rouge is also like kind of a messy show in an interesting way, whereas this is meant to be very designed. You know what I mean? Yeah.
This is curated, very curated. But I also don't think that I think that it's going to get knocked down quite a bit with the Tony voters for these very things. The fact that it doesn't have original music, that it is just like screeching these things, and our Tony voters skew a little older, so they're like, these are voters about it. So
It's also interesting that most of the songs are not young people's pop songs. Like these are the pop songs of our generation. The newest song on here is maybe Can't Feel My Face.
Yeah, somewhere
which
around
is
there.
still old, which is still like, I mean, The Weeknd's like 3 albums after that at this point.
Yeah.
Most of them are from songs from when we were in middle school. That's a, when you talk about getting people to the theater, that's an interesting way to go about it.
Yeah. We are definitely the millennial generation is becoming the ones that they really want to get our money on these.
Which, good luck.
Good luck. We want
to get our money too.
You can get our attention.
Yeah, it'll get our attention. And also a lot of people are calling this the soft idea of thanks Jonah for reminding us how old we are, because I was in college.
I was fully out of grad school.
But no, that this has been considered like a soft way of checking and seeing if maybe the Britney Spears musical Once Upon a Hit Me More Times, or whatever it's called, it's coming next season, will be a hit or not.
Which, like, that I'm a little more excited about than, like, a smorgasbord that does... Like, I would have even taken entirely our middle school, like a playlist that's entirely our middle school. But the fact that there's, like, 5 random songs on here that are not... that are, like, completely disconnected from that era, not even, like, 3 years later.
It is odd.
Makes it, like, there was no... curatorial musical thesis where, like, even to do the music of Britney Spears, or like even just boy bands, like if there's some solid theme, I can at least kind of be like, oh yeah, it's that the musical is that
Bon Jovi,
right.
And especially with the way that a lot of the songs are sort of stacked, where it's like it's back to back Backstreet Boys and back to back Britney, almost like a medley.
Right.
So yeah, it's all structured very oddly.
Yeah, you've got 2 Britney Spears tracks, then in between them is a Demi Lovato and a Katy Perry song that are more than 10 years later, and then another Britney Spears song, and then another Katy Perry song that is old for a Katy Perry song, where the one that just came before it is like mid-career-ish. So it's just like it feels like the theme was what would be popular with a crowd that has disposable income ?
It's what are the gays getting excited to scream along to? What are the ladies at a bachelorette party interested in?
This is also a lot of like teens and tweens that grew up on Glee that now are older and have more disposable income and are looking for musical theater that's a little bit more like Glee, which was pop culture songs set inside like a plot. And I feel like it's that combined with it reminds me of that glut in the 90s of when all of these type stories were being turned into 10 Things I Hate About You and Whatever It Takes, and
even Clueless as
She's
Emma.
the man.
Clueless, She's the Man. And so it feels like turning stories into pop musicals, and Moulin Rouge was La Boheme, and that one goes way back. But now we're seeing, but this is like using sourced music, and now Britney Spears is I wasn't sure what even the plot of that was, but now I looked into it. Yeah, it's It's not an original story. It's fairy tale characters that you're familiar with set to Britney Spears music, which
Mhm.
is different from the one that's on the right here, Almost Famous, being a much more targeted and specific story that is a jukebox musical. You know, Romeo and Juliet, even for all the stuff they do to it in this play, it's Romeo and Juliet. One of
Right.
the things, as I was like doing my reading for the episode, you know, obviously there's Tristan and Isolde and all whatever, and Romeo and Juliet is based on tropes. But what I didn't know is that it's far more directly based on a Italian poem from 30 years earlier, like 30,
Yeah.
35 years older, earlier, the tragical history of Romeo and Juliet.
Yep.
So it's literally a cover of a song from 30 years ago.
Yep.
But it's the one that we know better. He traced the almond. And, you know.
Well, and to that end, you know, having brought up Lion King, and you were like, well, you know, but these are, you know, sort of existing songs. I think that was one of the things Disney was trying to do with a pivot from musical theater people to using Elton John. And, you know, that's where we get Almost Famous, which is some original songs, some songs from Almost Famous, the movie, and then fucking Tiny Dancer.
Okay, I was upset.
I just want to say real quick, speaking of the Tonys and Tiny Dancer, Tony Danza was a real dick on the red carpet this week, and was like really rude about it. And I just want to be like, Judith Light, obviously the boss.
I mean, he was fine in What Happens in Vegas or Weekend in Las Vegas.
He was awful in The Producers.
Yeah.
I want to watch that show with him and Josh Groban, though.
Mona was the boss. Like, come on.
Yeah, like that's...
Mona was the boss.
Because what's her name's boss? Mona.
Yeah,
so
Mona's
in the end,
Angela's boss.
It's
so
still Mona.
She's at the top of the fucking food chain.
That's exactly how Harry Potter defeated Voldemort.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how he became Almost Famous. Here's a musical about a movie that I've never seen.
It's basically a movie that's like how cool I am. I just can't wait to be the coolest guy in the entire history of the world. I'm so cool. Everybody should suck my dick. I'm so cool. And,
also, what was going on to women in the 70s in groupie culture was fine. They were having a blast. Don't worry about that, 13-year-old girl that Jimmy Page raped and then held in his hotel room for years.
Oh.
Everybody was just having fun.
Also, Roman Polanski. So
that's the big one where I'm like, I'm 100% certain that 10 years ago we were starting specifically the Jimmy Page conversation, and baby, just
it's
so
a literal
many,
baby,
because those girls were young in the 70s, so they're not like dead, you know what I mean? Like they're still coherent and able to tell their stories, and the stories are horrifying. So where in the 90s we just didn't have the internet, you kind of couldn't put this stuff around in the same way. By the time this
R.
is
Kelly, it's fine.
This is okay because this guy made We Bought a Zoo, so it's fine.
I just somebody
that made
wasn't
me matter.
Groupie stuff is not good. We should shelve this. Is insane to me. It's insane to me. Like, I don't care about Cameron Crowe's journalism career as a teen. It's horrible. Anyway, it was so odd to me.
People need to stop fueling his obsession with telling his own life story.
Yeah, no, we're okay. I'll take anybody else's life story, please.
And casting himself
Where's
as
my
Matt
Rachel
Damon?
Maddow musical? There's a journalist whose story I need.
Casting Matt Damon as his physical body avatar.
To buy a zoo.
Anyway.
This kind of goes on that list of shows for me, like High Fidelity, where it's like, oh wait, right. So this is just generally, I don't think every movie about music necessarily makes the best musical movie. And this stands a great chance of touring. I think it's got some recognizable numbers. It's got a recognizable name. There's enough self-important white men who love cocaine in all the wrong ways, because there's right ways to love cocaine.
Yeah.
I support Mr. Supergirl, who is the lead, Chris Wood. I support
Mm-hmm.
anyone who supports her. So, there's that.
And there is definitely an aging, like, little too young for Woodstock group of people who are ready to get rip-roaring wasted and go see a musical with some of their faves. So as someone who did a night with Janis Joplin, it's gonna do just fine out there.
And that's actually something that I hold up. Tori, I love living vicariously through your excellence, because that I'm like, let me tell you about the time that my friend toured Janis Joplin.
Toured 2 cities.
Hey,
Both
how many cities was I Jackie Jump in?
Absolutely none.
And I just think that it's really a shame that a lot of that the musical that I did after Janis Joplin just really didn't get up and going. I think All for Joe was really something special.
Oh my
God! To talk about the greatest night of theater of my life.
One copy of All for Joe so bad.
I mean, that'll be a Patreon exclusive someday.
Speaking of shows that are truly something else.
You mean ALW calls it a costly mistake, and he's the one who wrote it?
And still on the subject of masturbatory, and still on the subject of so many things.
From almost famous to certainly infamous.
Ooh.
I want to point out that Bad Cinderella. So the thing about Bad Cinderella that's shocking in the first place is this design on Cinderella's dress is stunning. She makes the dress with a spray paint can. The original version where she's actually in the Cinderella and she's making the shoes play a role.
Because this wasn't called Bad Cinderella on the West End.
No, when they brought it to the US, they thought they had to like toughen it up, which is like the most Sopranos misunderstanding of anything I've ever heard.
And also just leaves you open for the New York Times to rip you a new one. The title warned us.
People think that they're like getting ahead of it by doing something like this. You never are. No one ever did.
As somebody whose absolute third favorite show in the history of musical theater is an Andrew Lloyd Webber, which is a horrible thing to admit in public.
Curtains?
No, that's Candor and Ebb, and that's
five for
sure.
I'm thinking New York.
Oh, Tori, are you trying to figure out which one it is?
I'm thinking. Is it Joseph?
No, it's gayer. It's the gayest thing you can love and still be.
Is it Starlight Express?
It's Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, okay. All right, Starlight Express is gayer than Sunset Boulevard, but sure.
Yeah.
True. So, I really love the music that I heard from this. Honest to goodness, like the music, not the lyrics. The lyrics were horrendous. The vocal performances were tremendous, but the vocal melodies were terrible. Honestly, not good. But like the score is really classic ALW in a way that I found kind of refreshing, because I don't think he's really been himself in a while. Also, I've listened to the entirety of Love Never Dies, like all the versions of it, every version of it.
Love ought to die.
I've been following it since before I knew Kevo.
My God.
It's just bad, man.
I love that it's something I came to you with, though. Because
you think that the only sequels in all of musical theater are Nonsense 2 and Nonsense 3? What's up, Rue McClanahan? But no.
Oh my God.
I know basically nothing about this show, except like the very basic details. But I would say 5 times a day, I am served a TikTok that is somebody saying this play is not good. Mm-hmm. Just like significantly, notably not good.
They are hemorrhaging money because they keep putting it into marketing to try to figure it out, which is not good. because it's already very expensive out there to run these shows.
And
Like,
they're going to copy the original Rodgers and Hammerstein marketing. They're going to switch everything to blue, and they're going to go with a cleaner look for Cinderella. They want like a typeface font because they want to try and give the show legitimacy on the outside and have you bust into the crazy inside.
they're gonna get it is going to be a joke come nominations time. So many tears. Speaking of tears, let's get over to yes, thank you, Jonah. I swear to God, all the bad ones
Island.
all the bad ones are up top. Let's see a beautiful noise. The Neil Diamond musical.
No.
Don't
When
care.
somebody said to me that the height of masturbatory jukebox musicalry was the Jimmy Buffett musical, and I was
My
like,
Nibbles a joy.
absolutely not.
The Neil Diamond musical said, "Hold my beer."
Exactly.
I worked on the off-Broadway Grateful Dead jukebox musical, and at least that one tried.
I forgot.
This feels like it was put
Red
on the
Roses,
list to
Green
make
Gold.
us. This feels like it was put on the list to make us less angry at Almost Famous.
I mean, I think this is one of those where they want all his music on there, but unlike Bruce Springsteen, he can't do 8 shows a week, so let's just throw something together.
And I think that part of it being like it's like a therapist talking to him through his lyrics.
Because he's known for his therapy.
And
What's his therapist's name? Is it Caroline? Who's Caroline in this? Who is it? Who is
Yeah.
it?
it's
I
him
need to
going
look.
through like his whole life. Like
No, but someone's gonna be Caroline.
Someone's gotta be Caroline.
also they did Come Into America, and I got confused because I thought it was Living in America for a minute, and I just didn't get it all together.
I like that better.
Living in America. I'm not a Neil Diamond guy. I understand that my ring lights have me washed out as hell, but I am not this kind of white, and nothing wrong with it. It's just not who I am.
No, and I like this could have been something where you got like all the moms out, and then like you followed up in 2 years with like the Barry Manilow musical, and it's all the moms are just like, I found my new Mamma Mia, I can't wait.
I love that they're all voguing over here.
We're like, oh my God, have you been? Josie, we're gonna go to Carmine's, and then we're gonna see the show, and then you're gonna tell your husband all about it, and you'll bring him and the fellas next
And
time.
listen, did you hear they got Joey McIntyre from the New Kids?
Joey McIntyre.
He's playing the Neil Diamonds.
I hope he takes his shirt off.
For that you got to go to the New Kids tour. But man, are they still doing it?
They are.
They're all very fit.
Listen, I went to the Backstreet Boys tour last summer, and I was shocked at A, how fit they are, B, how great they still sound, and C, they're out there for 3 hours. They did like 21 songs. It was wild.
Remind me to send you the behind the scenes clip of Nick and Brian screaming at each other in a meeting room as they try and plan the tour.
Actually, let me ask you a question, Tori. What are your thoughts on Broadway residencies for somebody like a Backstreet Boys to tell their own story?
As a card-carrying member of the Actors Equity Union, I'm very against the idea of only having one person on stage. However, those things tend to only take about 6 to 8 weeks, and frankly, the fact that we're bringing any kind of tourism into Broadway is actually a great thing for the city and for the area. But what I would prefer is actually if they had people kind of on stage with them. Like if you're going to do a Neil Diamond jukebox musical, fine. If you want to put Neil Diamond in it and be surrounded by 20 people, I'm down. Sign me up. Let's go. Let's do the thing. The fact that a place will get taken over, one of these 43 theaters gets taken over for a certain amount of time for these things is hard. I think that Bruce Springsteen is moving towards making his own musical with this as a way to like that was like a massive marketing campaign, and it's just like give it another year or so and it'll happen. But I think that moving into a world where we have people sit down for longer than a month is an injustice to the people who are working. especially because they usually want to bring their own band. So then the orchestras that are resident orchestras inside of many of those houses that get paid, even if there's a play in there, don't get work. And that's an extra expense. And then they're just out there trying to find a sub job over in, well, not Phantom anymore, but Lion King or something.
Well, I love that I love that you have that perspective, because, I've said I don't think anything should ever run longer than 2 years ever again.
I don't think it's worth it. I would actually love to see more theaters on Broadway take a tab out of West End and say they want to do seasons. Kevo, you've got thoughts. I can see them.
I do. I also wanted to share my thoughts in general on the Neil Diamond musical and what I probably would have preferred to see, which was an adaptation of what already exists and is the superior Neil Diamond musical, which is the Steve Zahn, Jason Biggs, and Jack Black film, Saving Silverman.
Ooh, I didn't realize this was part of that.
No, it's not. I want this. I want them to make this I want them to make this a Neil Diamond jukebox musical.
I didn't know
instead.
that these people were in Saving Silverman. That's
and what's her name? Amanda Peet.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people in this. I feel like this would have made more sense than what they came up with ultimately.
I would have loved something like The Wedding Singer, where it's Neil Diamond impersonators just like trying to make it through life and fall in love and fall out and all of these things. Like it should be. It could have been something really great, like a Mamma Mia, not quite a Jersey Boys, but something where like you have the feeling of getting older and getting past your prime, and what does it mean to try to find that again?
Mama and the Boys.
Yes. Oh, thank God! Someone bring me something better.
Okay, here we go. Kimberly Akimbo, I root so hard. What a cool feel-good musical with oddball cast, oddball music.
Janine Tesori at her strongest.
Reminds me so much of like the heart and weirdness that goes into a show like a Next to Normal or a Putnam, a Spelling Bee. You know, that sense of I'm the individual and you get to experience me is such an important thing for a show to have.
Janine Tesori is definitely part of those early aughts, late 90s composers that bring that weird adulthood or weird childhood into a musical. I think Kimberly Akimbo is fantastic. Am I a little biased because it started off at the Atlantic and I love the Atlantic and worked there for quite a bit? Yes, but it's worth it. Across the board. I know people who don't see shows twice in the same season and they have gone 4 times.
Yeah, I'm rooting for it so hard. Mm-hmm. It's this and Shucked for me all the way.
Yeah.
This is the
one they're gonna love.
I did not know anything about this show. In preparation for the show, I looked up just like some basic, at like the website, that type of advertising. I looked up the synopsis on Wikipedia without doing the full like rundown of each act of it. And I listened to the 2 top songs. Mm-hmm. Completely did not understand what I was looking at, why I would enjoy it, if it was supposed to be funny, if it was supposed to be, deeply sad. Why would I go? Had no idea. And I was taking notes for the show and I said something to Nico and, he gave me a response back, which was like a very good description, which just kind of gave me the idea that it was not supposed to be like tragedy. And from there, I wound up listening to a song like deep in what I could find on YouTube that was absolutely beautiful. And it took a lot of poking around. I now think it sounds really cool. That some of the music is just absolutely beautiful and I can see what's great about it. But it took me a ton of research to get there. And it was really one of those moments where I was like, I don't know how you, it's really tough to.
This is definitely one of those shows where the average person isn't going to come see it until after they see it win a bunch of Tonys.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
This is for the in crowd.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ways in which it's a lot like a Spelling Bee, like Nico said, is that it's very, I think the word is quirky, which is one of those things where, like, look at it, like the rainbow and the necklace, and like it's kind of funny, but it's kind of sad, and it's a little ephemeral in that regard, where it's hard to ascribe a specific vibe to it.
Mhm.
And it has something that a lot of shows don't have, which is a folksy accessibility. If you're from not around the East Coast, you probably have a little bit more country and folk in your heart, which I probably don't, but which is why me being so about Kimberly Akimbo and Shucked is shocking. But I don't know.
And
Shocking.
if you're into that kind of folksy kind of country vibe, I would definitely check out Janine Tesori's earlier work, Violet, which was mostly off Broadway. It had a Sutton Foster recently 10 years ago, but highly recommend. Really great storytelling through song on that soundtrack.
All right, well, let's take a look at a show that is designed to make me get up and dance. I am just so angry that this show didn't get a chance, because you know what? I am anti, concert musical, but I think Dreamgirls is a format, and this is K-pop Dreamgirls, and we should be celebrating every group's opportunity to tell the formulaic story.
Yep.
Because we see that story is formulaic, but it's the transformative details that make it interesting. The reviews for this show were great. The response to this show was great. It's just not the right people reviewing it, and not the right people.
Right. Yeah. Like, because the New York Times casual racism wasn't great. And we are moving past a world where the New York Times makes or breaks you. But when it's with a more niche show that they're taking a lot of chances on and all those kinds of things, a New York Times review that kind of like goes, I don't get it, is a death knell. And in a post-COVID world, they're going to pull the plug real fast if you're
17 days.
And stayed for another one because a bunch of people tried real hard. It's rough. And I heard people screaming from the tops of their lungs, get to the show as fast as you can. It is worth every inch of it. And so, I mean, God bless them. I would love if this got some nominations, but I don't know if it will.
The videos are incredible. The videos are so good. Just really unbelievably well filmed. If you like musicals and you've seen a musical enough times, and then you see the concert of the musical, or like the film video of it, and you see what they're not showing you, what they're trying to focus on, what isn't normally there. This had all of the hallmarks of the best of those. And it gave it to me without having to have seen the show. And so I thought it was really great.
Right. And it was in the right theater for it too. So many shows actually bomb because they're in the wrong theater. Circle in the Square is perfect for this one. It's one of the, I think, only theaters in the round that we have inside of Broadway. And this should have done quite well, but it just wasn't given the chance, which is a shame.
And this really, to me, we were talking about how and Juliet is like skews fun, but then ultimately doesn't really skew young. This is more something that young people would be interested in. I mean, even though it's original music, it's a genre that is much more skewed to young people, although like it's surprisingly universal. I was having this conversation with my mother the other day about how she has this like group of women that she knows in her town that all are like her. My mother's like 70 and they're all really into K-pop. So like, K-pop is a worldwide phenomenon and sensation that's doing huge numbers, and they're not all just young people, but it is a guaranteed young people attractor where I don't think Backstreet Boy songs are a young people attractor. They're a millennial attractor. And it's really unfortunate that there wasn't more investment in, laying that groundwork to pull Gen Zers into the theater now with a show that really is for them and relates to them. And then sort of saying like, hey, while you're here, there's other stuff that might not be quite so for you, but like, you may end up enjoying this version of 1776. So why not?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to just say that Tori has had hundreds of hours of voice notes from me talking about this. My relationship with Candor and Ebb is they're the finest of their generation. They are the most important songwriting duo since Rodgers and Hammerstein, since the Gershwins.
Lerner and Lowe are blushing.
I am so about Candor and Ebb. I think Curtains is one of the greatest posthumous musicals ever released. You really want to have your mind blown? Look up It's a Business. That thing tears the house to pieces. And it's one of those few pieces that's designed for an older, bigger woman to sink in. Top to bottom. Candor and Ebb can do no wrong in my mind. The bits of this show I've listened to, I've been very impressed with. Which is why I am shocked that the reviews for New York are across the boards zeros.
Yep.
And F's. When I heard the lead actor in this perform, I took a step back and said, this man could play Jeff Buckley tomorrow.
It's so fascinating because they're like, not a good note in the whole thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So I don't know what people are doing, what's going on, but like something is up.
I do want to say this. I thought the bits that we listened to sounded great. This guy seems really talented, but I also was, because of what you were saying about it, was trying to scrutinize it very closely. And there definitely were moments in performances and like the live tape performances that were like line fumbles and note misses. And the talent is certainly there, but I think one of the things it makes me think of is the way that I loved the OBCR of Legally Blonde like 16 years ago. And when I met Nico, he was like, that is the biggest piece of trash my parents have ever seen on Broadway.
My parents walked out.
They thought it was terrible. And the conclusion we came to is that, the OBCR sounds great, but even if you watch the live MTV performances, you know, there's moments, and you know, just because the core elements are there and the potential are there, if it's not there every night and it's not hitting every performance, then it doesn't matter how good the basics are, because it's about what you're giving live.
Yeah, especially now that we're releasing soundtracks while the show is like just barely open. People are expecting that recording studio perfection when they show up, especially the younger audience who don't realize that like the recording is different from it being live. And so I'll be very interested.
I Am What I Am in La Cage aux Folles, that takes out Act 1. She doesn't hit that every single night. She doesn't go that high as the OBCR, because that would kill a man at that age. So, you know, I'm sure there are people who now would be like, oh,
I know so many Tonys who don't hit that note in Maria every night. They don't. They can't. It's hard. Like, it's a lot. I think this is good. They're going to give this to Candor for like a last hurrah. But I think this one is going to clog a lot of ballots, but not turn up a lot of gold.
Because it can't win original score.
No.
Which, I mean, if I have any comment, this is maybe something that we're just not talking about. Lin-Manuel Miranda is an old school Broadway faggot. And I mean that in the truest sense, as a Broadway faggot. This guy is out there.
I saw his work in West Side Story. I saw it live.
Thank you. Thank you. He is not always a home runnist, but what he is a man who will fumble for his art every time. He is a hero to me, not because of his perfection or his wins, because he has never let a failure stop him from trying again. And there is no doubt in my mind that if tomorrow another Candor or Ebb-esque duo lost a member and said, Lynn, there's only you who could finish this, he's going to say, I'm going to give you everything I got, just like I did for New York, New York, and I will never let you down with attempt. And like, that's my hero, you know?
And I will also say that even amidst his failures, there is still some stunning gold. The work that he did on A Boy Like That for that West Side Story revival, where the entire show, Anita has been singing in English and Maria has been singing in Spanish. And they swap at that moment because Anita has fallen out of love with the idea of America now that Bernardo is dead. Oh my God. Wrecked.
And Bring It On the musical is really, really it's not a disaster. I don't care what anyone says.
It's not a disaster.
We all do things.
Anyway, this is not the gold that I think they thought it would be, but it is a solid showing for a show that was that everyone thought was on Broadway but never was. Versus Shucked, which is the darling, the niche, the dark horse.
It's that yellow.
It's that. Oh my God, that's the gold you ought to find in America.
Can I even point out, it's more than just that yellow. This doesn't look like a musical poster. This looks like a Showtime series.
Yeah.
And that it's
that
about
font.
corn and whiskey in that regard, and that it is about a town losing its way. There is so much about this show.
It's in the Nederlander. I just saw that.
Oh,
which is the right size for a comedy. A musical comedy can't support, a Gershwin.
Right.
So,
for those who don't know, there are differences between them, all the way from the Winter Garden to, I think the Lyric is the smallest.
The Lyric is a basement.
She's a bitty baby. It's because she's old. She's old and she hasn't been redone. She's historic.
So it's a Stelgetty.
Yeah. But the Nederlander is right. This is why we talk about when shows are just in the wrong theater. I actually don't think that Beetlejuice probably should have been in the Winter Garden. I think that was a problem for it, and it's done a lot better in a smaller house.
I think King Kong could have actually hung in at a smaller house because it could have also allowed for the figure to be smaller, and it would have made it a lot more manageable. I think King Kong, it had a terrible time being an average show in an exquisite theater with an underfunded budget. It was not the worst songs I've ever heard in my life, and it deserved a lot better than it got. The puppetry alone.
Yeah, seriously. But this show is, I think, for the Tony voters, might be a little too ironic, a little too weird, a little too confusing, too. I liked it, but I don't think it's art for them.
Wait, is this Avenue Q revenge?
This is Avenue Q.
Avenue Q revenge, yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Whew. Sorry. Nico, can you give us a tight 20 seconds on Avenue Q revenge?
So if I'm not mistaken, it goes like this. The winner gets offered a tour from the Tony people, and they gave it to Avenue Q over Wicked because Wicked had already signed a deal to do something somewhere else and wouldn't play ball. So Avenue Q won the Tony.
I think you threw a metaphor in there, but sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Just so we're clear, that was a metaphor.
Yeah, no one was actually trying to play ball.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say.
It's musical theater. They know.
Wicked should not have won. For me, I'm not the biggest Wicked fan. I think Wicked would be a little bit better one act. I actually would probably stage it a little bit more concert-like and kind of give it like a Chicago-esque Emerald City look. I just think Wicked's not for me.
I think Wicked could have used one more out-of-town tryout where they cut more of the like weird references to the book that no one read.
Thank you. Oh my God.
So and just really like clean in on the storyline, but
just that dragon stuff.
So it goes. The dragon stuff, the two dick stuff. It's a whole lot of nonsense.
But Shucked. I want to say that's Alex Newell who does.
Yes, love them.
Independently owned is, for my money, if they don't do that number at the Tonys, it's because they're bitter about some things that were said.
So yeah, and also like that brings up more of what we're going to get into with Some Like It Hot. But we have a surprising for the season number of non-binary actors on the stage, and the fact that the Tonys didn't look at it and go, "Oh, what a perfect season to finally degender our awards," stuck to their guns. And so we have people saying, "No, I'm not gonna," or we have people like Jay Harrison Gee and Some Like It Hot, because they use he, they, is just going, well, it's an actor role. So we got a lot of splaining to do on this one.
I just want to say that not only am I excited to see Some Like It Hot because Amber Ruffin wrote it, and Amber Ruffin, the first woman of color to run a late night room in history, deserves all of our credit and all of our applause for just being such a trailblazer and brilliant, hysterically funny. The book for this is a lot of fun. It's very playful. The music is spectacular. Mariah Carey bought into it. I love all of that. One of the things that I think is interesting about this particular show is the general idea for me that we're looking at a show that is trying to update a problematic behavior. There were a lot of really bad things in the original that were not corrected in, let's say, Tootsie. Some Like It Hot reflects an adult maturing of the the Broadway community, acknowledging problematic behaviors when adapting a work.
I would actually say that it does do a better job than Tootsie and Mrs. Doubtfire did, in that it doesn't portray as much like violent reactions for when the disguise is shed, but it continues the idea of we laugh at men in drag, and that's all that it is. It's a joke, and I think that this is the third season that we've had to deal with this in 5 years of seasons, which is really 7 because of COVID. And it's not a cute look that we keep doing it and are only like inching the line every time. And that we're not including more people involved in the process. Now, I know that Glad came in and looked at and Mrs. Doubtfire, but at the end of the day, it was not right. And the fact that we don't have people in the production and design room from the beginning doing these things is very difficult. And I also think that by casting a trans actor in this role of Jerry/Daphne, I'll be interested to see if there's a note put in that this should continue, or if it's just this is who we happen to cast.
Great comment.
Yeah.
Great comment.
Oh, thanks. Glad I didn't have to type it this time.
Because people will have something to say about that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of really great think pieces. There's a lot of really great think pieces about Tootsie, about Mrs. Doubtfire, about Some Like It Hot that you can look into. It's becoming less and less angry. It's becoming more and more downtrodden, and that lets me know that this might be a problem that we're not going to see disappear, particularly after last year's Jagged Little Pill problem. Which was a nightmare. Where they had a non-binary actor in the early runs out of town, and then redid it into a cisgender role once it got to Broadway.
Well, and part of that celebration of drag culture will present itself here, as later on we're going to play a bit of a fun game with the contestants from the most recent season of Drag Race and some of these shows. So we're going to celebrate what we love about drag and musicals. So this is the original show's rundown. Let's take I was going to say before we move over, anybody want to say their personal choice, if they have one at all? I'm going Shucked all the way. Shucked is like my choice. I'll be fine with whatever wins, as long as it's not honestly, as long as it's not Bad Cinderella or A Beautiful Noise, but I don't see either of them getting nominated. I also don't see Almost Famous getting nominated. I'd really like it to be Shucked, if not Shucked, Kimberly Akimbo. But that's for me. My guess, my take. T, do you have any horse in this race?
I really do not. Based on what little I know, I would love to see K-pop or Shucked, and maybe Kimberly Akimbo. I just it's at this point those first four, and Juliet, Almost Famous, Bad Cinderella, and Neil Diamond. I just decline for moral reasons.
Tori, as the person here with the most absolute right to be here, what is your thought? What is your show in this race? And you can give me your show, because my show, like I said, is Shucked, but I think it's gonna either go to New York, or something like it hot.
Oh, really? Interesting. I think so. They usually give nominations to about 6 of these. I think we're gonna get Juliet. We're gonna get Kimberly Akimbo. We're gonna get New York. We're gonna get Shucked. We're gonna get Some Like It Hot. We might get K-pop. Unclear. The 6th slot may or may not happen. Who do I think should win? I think it should be Shucked or Kimberly Akimbo, but I think it should be Shucked. But I think Kimberly Akimbo will win. And I think it's about the fact that New York and Some Like It Hot are going to cancel each other out on the nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
And people are going to be left with Kimberly Akimbo. And I just don't think Shucked is going to resonate with enough of the older Tony voters.
Love it. Great perspectives. Thank you for agreeing with me on so many of them. And Kevo, where are you at, sweetie?
Everything Tori said, I really echo everything that she was saying. I think Kimberly Akimbo and Shucked will probably be neck and neck on a lot of the awards.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll probably be them plus Some Like It Hot. We'll probably see the most. But as for the top here, gosh, it's hard because I really see where she's coming from the business perspective. But they love to try and surprise you and say, haha, look, we are cool. When at the end of the day, you're still just voting on a musical that's about corn. You're still not cool, guys. We're trying to drag you across a finish line that's well overdue in the first place.
Listen,
so I don't know.
I think it's very possible that A Beautiful Noise may pay a lot of money to get that 6th nomination, and I think that may be it.
I gotta be honest, I don't think the Tonys have been concerned with being cool since they said, look, we gave it to Spring Awakening, we're done.
Blah, 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 blah.
I'm a big Duncan Sheik fan, but Spring Awakenings is a barely breath too far.
It's perfect for your teenagers. It really, really is.
I wrote a jukebox musical with a Duncan Sheik song in it.
Well,
proud of you.
Speaking of revisiting songs, let's take a look at some revisits here.
Revival.
I was going to get there. These are some revivals that opened this year. We've got 1776, Bob Fosse's Dancin. We've got Camelot, Into the Woods, Parade, and Sweeney Todd. I just want to start with, before anything else, I'm not too invested in 2 of these. I'm fairly invested in 2 of these, and I'm obsessed with 2 of these.
Oh, let's get into it.
They're in order.
As a kid, 1776 was something we watched every 4th of July in my family.
Yes, they do.
I've never seen that.
I love it. It's a great movie.
Your parents are obsessed.
It's a really good one. It's a fun score. He plays the violin, is one of the funnest things. I've seen it with Brent Spiner on Broadway.
Mr. Feeney.
It's a fun show, but it's a show that absolutely needs to be pointed at as this is what's wrong. And that this iteration was bold, brave, creative, strong, daring, reorchestrated, reimagined beyond just a gender flip, but also sonically designed to reflect that recreation. Not just have the same people perform, but change the style of harmony, change the form of chord progression. This absolutely tops my list for creative restaging and revival.
This takes everything that the Oklahoma restaging did and slammed in a bunch of Hamilton vision, and it reached for those stars. It really did. And then I think it collapsed under its own press.
Maybe one particular article, maybe, you know what? I don't want to say that.
There's a lot of drama involved in this one that is so thorny that to actually discuss it would be to open us up to way too much. But basically this is just, there's a lot of the actors getting treated poorly on this one.
And I never once questioned the actors being treated poorly. I am, I don't care about the people with the money. I care about the art. I am shocked by, let's just say that I'm 85% shocked by some stuff that was said, because nothing could shock me 100%. Nothing pays me enough to shock me 100%. Is definitely a phrase that will stick with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. It's a really good one. You love when the tea is so hot that all of a sudden you're like, oh, we have a new way of saying screw you to everybody.
McDonald's hot.
Yeah.
McDonald's hot. That's what I was going to say.
McDonald's hot. So I think 1776 it could have been something that really was exciting. And I think it collapsed under its own press. It collapsed under the weight of expectation, and it just wasn't the juggernaut they thought it would be.
Now, TK, Kevo, do either of you have any relationship with this play? And if not, you can just say, sit down, John.
No, sorry, no relationship.
None.
And this was one, we didn't have great recordings of this to listen to as we were prepping, so I continue to have very little relationship. It seems like they're making interesting casting decisions, but I don't know if they're making good ones. And I guess we'll find out in retrospect.
It's a fun experiment, and I'm glad that they're doing it. But I don't really have any experience with really most of these revivals. I don't have an experience with Fosse's Dancin here either. I remember the tail end of a commercial for Camelot from when we were young. That's it.
Before we get too ahead, then let's take some looking at Fosse. Fosse's Dancin.
Is it exactly what it says on the tin?
Yes.
It is exactly what it says on the tin.
Exactly
Bob Fosse's Dancin is one of those things where I feel like there's more than one of these out in the world, but maybe I'm crazy. But like Bob Fosse. Okay, so yeah, there's more than one of these out there.
Because there's also Fosse.
Yeah, there's also Fosse. And so basically Fosse's choreography is so definitive and so changing to the sculpture of the American theater as possible that they're like, what if we just did a show where we took a bunch of the songs we did choreography to do and we redo it one after the other, after the other, after the other. That's a show.
Everybody who's the strongest at dancing just runs to this audition. If you're an okay singer and a not so great actor, but you got legs, if you're only half a BB Newworth, you run to this audition.
Love looks to dance 10. Let's get it out there. So I'm always leery of these. It's gonna catch like the choreography nomination, maybe some of the production ones, but there's not going to be a whole lot to Bob Fosse's Dancin. And the fact that I was aware of it, but not terribly, means that there was nothing particularly stunning about it.
I'm leerier of these than I am of like jukebox musicals, because in a jukebox musical, they probably want you to dance well anyway. But this is just like this. It feels weird to me, this being in the same category as musical revival. I feel like something that is so heavily dance focused should be something different. I don't know. It
It's
just always felt
the-
weird to me.
It's the American musical theater version of a ballet company, which is very exciting from like
Yeah.
an art perspective, but is not exciting from a musical Broadway perspective. And quite frankly, there are a lot of people who are like, oh, Bob Fosse, like how exciting. Let's go see Fosse show. And then they walk out and they're like, the heck was that? That doesn't even have anything. It was just a bunch of dancing. And so this is very much like, if you're not in like the granular of this world, you're probably not going to want to see this.
Yeah.
TK, you going to see Bob Fosse's Dancin?
I would probably go see Bob Fosse's Dancing just because, you know, I mean, it's Bob Fosse.
People are going to be hot in there. They're going to be hot.
Curious. I'm
Yeah.
curious what the big deal is for sure.
I mean, you know, I love Liza with a Z. I love Bob Fosse. Like for me, when I don't, this is one that I know very little about. And this was one that I mean, like I had plenty of time to research all of these. This wasn't like I got rushed. I was like, the title alone is enough. I'm actually not going to look anything up because I just kind of want to see it more than anything else. But the vibe that I'm like, this is Stomp for fags over the age of 30, basically.
Yeah.
Over the age of 45, honey. Fosse's been gone
Shut
for a
up!
long time.
I just want to believe that it can skew younger. No, but you are that age is much more accurate.
You witch.
I do just want to watch it in the same way and like I do love those shows. I mean, I've seen Blue Man Group, I've seen Stomp. I like a show like that. I don't necessarily, I understand that it's kind of a different thing than musical theater like we're talking about, but I do enjoy a show like that. I would probably enjoy a show like this. That same argument might be why it's not sort of a great candidate to be in the running with these things, but I would be so down. Yeah.
Well,
for sure.
From Dancin to Camelot. Wait.
That's just your life, Nico.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of.
How much did they cut off of this one? Did they get it down to 2.5?
Yes.
Wow.
It's like 238 or something. It's like it's weird short. Yeah.
Camelot is a show that like when it like became the Broadway sensation was 3.5, and that was because they cut it from the 5 hours when they did it in Canada. Like it's a monster.
And it's a show that so focuses on the individual experience of each performer, the soliloquizing, the exploration of each character in their own songs. You have numbers here. And putting Philippa Sue in...
Hi, Pippa.
She's just... I feel like this is one of those things where, like, if you asked me, should you have some shows against each other? Only if you want to make the Tony nominations exciting. Mm-hmm. Because now you've got to figure out who's getting the nomination. Annalee Ashford? Or, I mean, who's getting the win? Annalee Ashford or Philippa Sue? Mm-hmm. Because they both have to be nominated for Outstanding Lead Actress in the musical revival. And it's just kind of going to be, no offense, Sarah Bareilles, you're not getting it for Into the Woods compared to these two women who have stood in line for these awards. Yeah. And because some of it is that kind of game. But Camelot is such an important show to me, I think, because it's just a show that can't exist anymore. No one is making shows like Camelot now. And it's one of the last really fine examples of the long form early musical that, Tori, you have to talk me down from writing every opera at 4 hours.
Yeah. Like this is the latest in a long line of Lincoln Center Theater's like rehabilitation of old musicals. They've done Carousel, they've done Oklahoma, they've done, did they do Guys and Dolls recently? Like it's all the old
but Paper Mill is.
Paper Mill is. But Camelot is another one where we're just like going, like we're going deep and we're going to kind of revamp it a little for the new thing, or we're just going to like go for it. And, Aaron Sorkin aside, this should have done a lot better than it did. And I don't know what Sorkin did to the book to pull out all the joy, but this should be it is a fun show. It's a long show, but it is a fun show, and it has some real standards in it that people are going to want to hear much like how last year West Side Story had people screaming about I Feel Pretty missing. You know, like, you got to have these things. It's Camelot. And I don't know. I'm intrigued that if this will do as well as it should have.
Well, I can't wait to pick up with this discussion in just a few moments. I think we're going to take a quick break, but I want to...
intermission?
A quick intermission. Oh, you saucy
You
devil.
stop.
And it's just past what's like Act 3 of 5. Perfect. You know, we have probably the 3 most discussable shows coming up next. I have the least opinion on Into the Woods by far because... I mean, obviously, my relationship with any show by Robert is insane for Parade, but whatever. We'll get to that in a minute. Either way, I just want to thank everybody for being a part of this incredible experience, talking about musicals, getting behind, you know, one of my favorite forms of art. And I'm just really excited to keep taking a look at these shows. Don't forget, if you guys like what you're hearing, seeing, and if you like our madness, like and subscribe, because it's these 4 of us pretty much every single day here on X's for Show, on YouTube, as well as on Twitter, Instagram, and more. So, like, subscribe, stick around, check out more musical stuff, because it's about to get real weird.
So weird. So weird.
But I love it.
All right, and we're back. And we're not just back. We're back to talk about what I think are probably the 3 biggest shows for us to discuss from the entire list of shows, right? And one of the things I'm most excited about with this list is that it's 2 shows that mean a lot to me and 1 show that means, I guess, a lot to a lot of people, I guess. I like it, but let's do this. We've already taken a look at all of the new shows this year. We've all kind of singled out our favorites being Shucked, Kimberly Akimbo, K-pop. There's some positivity for things like New York, New York, Some Like It Hot, and Juliet. There was notably less for Almost Famous, Bad Cinderella, and the Neil Diamond musical, A Beautiful Noise. What's interesting is that probably represents the 3 most old school ways of thinking. And so it's fair to say goodbye, though I would say New York, New York kind of goes in that category. But I have Candor and Ebb blinders and won't hear a bad word said about Candor and Ebb. So from there, we took a look at the new show, the new revivals, my apologies, with 1776, or as it says here, 1776, which I think is about 2 rival car racers, right?
Wait, I have a joke about 1776 that I stole from a friend of mine.
Go for it.
This season, we have 2 kinds of 76 between the musical 1776 and the play Summer of 1976. Last year, we just had 176 trombones.
Oh, and he wasn't enough to save Broadway.
No, he was not. Poor thing.
It's used to 6 claws, 76 trombones.
Oh,
It was so
It was a
tricky.
lot. 76
Button
trombones.
Saucer again.
Button
Yeah.
Saucer.
Love her.
Then we got Dancin, and it didn't have any of us dancing. And we talked about Camelot.
Well, we were interested.
I was gonna say I'm dancing out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just that it doesn't belong with the others.
We were dancing. We weren't singing, though.
Not singing. Also, because I also looked up the track list for this, and this is not like Bob Fosse's like musical hits. This is Bob Fosse's choreography to old standards. Like Sing, Sing, Sing
Uh-oh.
is in here and things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. Like
Mr.
this is
That's even weirder.
Like, yeah. So this isn't even like you're gonna go in there and be like, time for Sweet Charities, the Frug. Nope.
It's a Bob Fosse jukebox musical. How is that possible?
Man was
Several.
prolific.
Yeah. All
We're
right.
just living in it.
Mhm.
We came to Camelot, and we
Came so much.
kind of came and went a lot.
Yeah.
And that brings us to one of 2 Sondheims that I'm so surprised got staged the year after we lost Stephen Sondheim. I could not have seen that coming.
Into the woods. Into the woods.
It's never ever happened in the history of Broadway that right after a major name passes away, that they decide to overstage him, even when he's the greatest writer of all time.
The things they did for Bernstein's 100th birthday
We're
like,
insane!
wild what they put together for that.
I can't wait to see what they do for when the Wild Party turns 100.
It's gonna be a wild party.
Will there even be a New York by then? The lights will go out on Broadway.
I mean the poems. I want to
the
see
poem.
maybe we'll get a 3rd or 4th one.
I mean, we might get a revitalization of Cats for the 100th birthday of that T.S. Eliot nonsense. Ooh. Anyway.
It's got to be a multiple of 9.
Okay.
It's into the woods.
We went in.
We
We
went
went
in.
into those woods.
Did we go out? Who knows?
You
Any
know,
musical that wants to have a rapping witch is fine in my book, but also this is not my Into the Woods.
It's very it's got a huge crazy cast that makes everyone go wow, wow, wow. And I highly recommend it for the performances. I'm sure this is gonna be a very performance heavy nominated show. But I don't think that it's doing anything particularly new or exciting with it.
no. And in fact, it's a little bit old. You know, Into the Woods is a really fascinating musical for me because it's something I didn't discover until Pando. You know, even with the movie that came out,
Mhm.
I remember the old Broadway commercial for Into the Woods because I think it was on my Fraggle Rock tape that had episodes recorded off of TNT from their cartoon block.
Bet.
And so I remember that old commercial, but I never saw, or got into it. And then during Pando, I discovered the 1980s performance from Masterpiece Theater is just on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
Just go watch it. It's great. And then I tried listening to other OBCRs, and then I stopped trying to do that.
I mean,
I love the Lithgow.
I believe it. And maybe some of them would be better as live performances, so I want to like scope out the Hollywood Bowl or the Central Park. But something about the tracks from this that we listened to really reminded me of the restaging of the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella from like 10 years ago now, the one that Carly Rae was in. I just missed her by like a week.
I'm so mad I didn't go and see her in that because Fran Drescher
I
was the mother, and like my brain at the time wasn't that into I'm not getting into it. I'm disappointed in myself.
But you would have had to have seen it with them because the staging itself was really basic. And as I was looking around and seeing how many children were in the audience, I was like, oh, that's probably why. That's why the prince is giving a ball is in halftime. So it's something that the kids, it's not too fast. And that's sort of what it felt like this Into the Woods was. It felt like they were hamming it up a lot. It felt like it was a lot rote and not trying to give singular performances so much as performing in a singular play.
Yeah.
And sure, but I would rather have singular performances.
This is one of those vanity projects.
Yeah.
When I'm always very interested when like New York City Center's encores, they move them onto these. They did it with, I believe, Sunday in the Park with George a couple of years ago. They did it with this. They were planning on doing it with another one that was during the pandemic that got shut down. It's always lovely. I'm always very weirded out when we go minimal on a big Broadway stage. The St. James isn't terribly big, but still, you have this huge house. You have all of this width, this depth, this height, and you're just gonna squeeze it all down into the bare minimum. And I think if you're paying $250 a ticket, you deserve some spectacle, at least.
It feels like one of those things where they were like, but it's different this time. You've seen it so many ways, but not this way.
If Sarah Bareilles isn't holding a tuba, like there's no way that it can be that different.
Now that would be a show.
Into the Woods relies really heavily on how weird its ensemble is, that they can pull in strange people like Philippa Sue and Sarah Bareilles at the same time as Brian Darcy James and Gavin Creel and Julia Lester from High School Musical. Teak, I don't know if you had seen in my notes for the script, but the person who's playing the narrator and the mysterious man is Jerry Horn from Twin Peaks.
Huh.
Not Ben.
Not Ben Horn from the West Side Story movie. And like that was already a mind F for me. But no, David Patrick Kelly. So like the people that they shove into this musical, they usually try and be like, but look, isn't that weird? This person that you didn't expect. It's not enough. We need tubas. We need like light screen projections of them voicing Muppets or something. I don't know.
I'm obsessed with this tuba plan.
You don't get the reference.
No.
It's the fact that Patti LuPone in what, 2006?
2005.
Nico's favorite Sweeney.
2005, 2006. They did Sweeney Todd, where there was like 9 actors on stage. They were all playing their own instruments, and so like if they took a solo, like everyone around them was playing, and while they're doing other people's songs, Patti LuPone playing Mrs. Lovett is playing the tuba in
and
some
the
of it.
accordion at one point.
The accordion, and it's just like, wow. Wow, no wonder she doesn't want to go back to Broadway anymore.
So that's why I'm like Into the Woods with puppets or shadow boxing. I don't even know, but you need to do something to it. Absolutely.
Full on like Disney ripoff riff, I think would be at least interesting. Would at least get the papers talking.
They have the partnership now because of the film.
Right,
so
like it's fine. It's fine.
I don't know.
I don't think it's anything particularly exciting. If people win from this, it'll be because we should have given it to them for something else and we weren't able to.
Well, speaking of something that deserves to win a lot, I am a Jason Robert Brown person. I'm pretty easy in that regard. You can just put him on and I'm set. Parade is so tough and harrowing. And it's a really hard story to talk about, especially as somebody on the outside of the Jewish community looking in. It's a story that you feel you like have no right to, and you should feel pretty inherently guilty about if you're a non-Jewish American. I was prepared to kind of hate Ben Platt in this because I am not a Ben Platt person. I kind of will never see myself as a Ben Platt person. Brent Carver is kind of irreplaceable in that regard. I'm blown away. I'm blown away by every single moment of this. For me, and I think for many people, Where Will You Stand When the Flood Comes is like the number. And it's, here it is so goddamn devastating. It's hard to even talk about on camera.
It's the fact that we had Nazis coming in and protesting this thing as it was opening. Like there were Nazis in this audience for these shows. Like we were talking about something that should be so far gone and should be so departed from the average everyday experience that we have now in the 21st century. And we're having to deal with this, and it makes it very real and very sudden. And I, as a fellow Ben Platt non-enthusiast, I find this would be the rehabilitation of him, and I think they're going to give him quite the response for this.
Kevo
Parade.
TK.
It's a lot.
Any thoughts on Parade, which is, the heaviest thing in a season with a musical about cannibalism?
Nah.
Nah.
To take some of the heat off of Ben Platt, director Michael Arden is someone whose career I have been tangentially aware of for like a good 15 plus years. I remember him from the original Broadway cast of the super queer musical Bear, a pop opera. And so I remember, and so I've been aware of him ever since that. And so we saw him on the Amy Sherman Palladino Failure, The Return of Jezebel James, and I recognized him.
And there can't be three.
There can't. The NBC failed show Kings, where he made out with Sebastian Stan, who played a very gay prince. I remember that when he played Quasimodo in the super beloved Hunchback. Like, I've been very aware of him coming up, and so seeing him have this opportunity, and as a queer man in theater who I know it's a queer industry, but it's tough making it no matter who you are, no matter what you're trying to do when you got that going down. So the queer energy on this for something that is so relevant is really great too.
And the Jewish experience and the queer experience often are very reflective of each other. There's of course intersectionality. Hello. In every industry, Jewish people play a large role and often don't tell their own stories or encode their stories in ways that are not particularly obvious. So it's always fascinating to see a directly very Jewish thing. Every comic that we talk about was created by a Jewish man, and none of the characters are Jewish. Jewish experience is encoded in unique ways. That is, of course, hyperbole. Not every story, but many of the big ones were written by Jewish men, some of whom were not, always religiously Jewish, but were born of Jewish heritage and culture.
Hey, Chris.
Sorry, was that?
I said, hey, Chris Claremont.
Yeah. Raised, in a way that Judaism, if not a religious thing, was still affecting their education in significant ways. But for all that, we don't see a lot of Jewish characters in comic books. Similarly, there are Jewish people throughout the theater industry, throughout Broadway, throughout the city of New York, but we don't see a ton of Jewish stories. Again, we see them encoded, and so to get a full production about a Jewish experience, and one that is tragic in a way that we don't really associate with the Jewish people. You kind of expect, if you get a large scale drama about Jewish tragedy, it's probably going to be the Holocaust. And so to deal with a much smaller personal story that has a lot to do with the way that an individual Jewish person still to this day runs afoul of anti-Semitism and white supremacy is, I think it's kind of more relevant than ever and more beautiful than ever. Ben Platt sucks, so that's kind of unfortunate. But if this draws more attention to, the rise of anti-Semitism in America, if Ben Platt's doing a great job, that's all fine with me. I'm very interested. I'm always really wary of big tragic stories and performances when it comes to award ceremonies, because I feel like there's sort of an ability to give an award and go, see, we really cared. Please don't ever talk to me about this again.
Yeah, if we were going to talk about the plays, like I have a 4-page thesis on how the Tony voters would deal with black plays about tragedy versus black plays with satirical comedy. It's a whole different brand.
Yep.
So, the other thing I want to say is, I'm so sorry, Kevin.
No, go ahead.
I opened with a big joke about Ben Platt, being a meme for trying to look young when he was 206. Something that this parade playbill does not shy from is that he is a man playing a man. And
which, there's an upgrade in his whole situation.
You're not trying to be a kid anymore. Good for you.
It transforms my expectation of his performance, and from what I've seen, he delivers.
I do feel like it's one of those things where it's like that's good, but like kind of too little, too late. I shouldn't even say too little, too late, but how lucky, how privileged to have been sort of notoriously horrible, to have tanked an entire film production because of your own ego and desire to do a thing, and then to just be able to walk away and, to have had the training, connections, and short talent to find a role that you could sort of recover with. There are so many people who have made better intentioned mistakes that have been smaller disasters that have never recovered.
Yep.
I have something on that, actually.
Please.
I didn't even realize until as I'm looking over notes and stuff, it's really funny having his playbill be right next to the Into the Woods playbill, considering his dad produced that movie.
Yeah. There you go.
I didn't even realize
There you
that of all of the things. And I sort of gasped because I didn't know that he was a producer on one of my favorite movies, a movie musical, Josie and the Pussycats.
Mm.
But then I'm also looking through like Legally Blonde 2. Like, there's stuff on here. All the recent Disney live action stuff. Like never let it be forgotten,
Oh yeah, he's a giant nepo baby.
Giant Nepo baby.
100%. But also he is talented.
Yeah, he's very
in fairness.
talented. That
Very
should not
talented.
be minimized. It's just, it is similar to that thing of like, if this gets an award simply because we feel good giving tragic stories an award and saying that that's kind of us doing our due diligence, the flip side of that is like this man just kind of paved over so much stuff solely so he could have runway to do what he wants. And it's unfortunate. There are many talented people that don't have that kind of, and it's the fact that he doesn't acknowledge it or lift anybody else up.
Right.
That's really,
100%.
that's what's really sad.
Yeah.
Speaking of men who eat other people alive.
Yes.
Absolutely. So this is my number one favorite musical of all time. For the hour and a half I went on about Rent at the beginning, I love Sweeney Todd kind of just slightly more. I think Antony is the role of a lifetime, specifically because it's the greatest vocal performance maybe ever for a man. It's the creepiest role of all time. It's kind of basically a step between a stalker and a flasher. He's a fucking freak. But Sweeney Todd is the greatest show ever, and some of the greatest actors in the history of modern theater have graced the role. Some of the greatest actresses of all time have defined the role of Mrs. Lovett. These are two of the greatest of their generation. I didn't want Josh Groban in the role, but I'm sure glad he took it. Anna Lee Ashford is a genius. It's the first time all 26-piece orchestra arrangements have been used since the first ever staging. And it is truly remarkable that this version of Sweeney Todd is able to exist despite what I think is the kind of sullying of the name as a result of the popularization of this Sweeney movie with Johnny Depp, kind of getting lumped in with the Dark Shadows movie with Johnny Depp, like that slew of weird gothy Johnny Depp failures all at once.
Oh, I didn't realize that did any tainting.
Yeah, it kind of became like a joke, like, oh, that Johnny Depp eats people movie.
It's funny that you say that though, because I feel like that has so fallen out of public consciousness and relevant. Johnny Depp's own, films and scandals have gone so far beyond that. I feel like all things considered, there couldn't be kind of a better time for this thing to emerge as its own thing, entirely divorced from this man, without that movie dragging it down. I could be wrong about that, but I just feel like I've seen so few references to the fact that movie exists or should in any way color your thoughts about this incarnation of the musical.
I agree. And it's also been a surprisingly long time since we had one on stage. On Broadway, we had a downtown version. We had a downtown version that did a bunch of really crazy cool stuff with it. But I think this is a really exciting way to get this show back into kids. I think if we're gonna revamp something, make it one of the weird, well-known ones. Because there's nothing like that steam whistle to scare the bejeebus out of you. Oh my god. So I'm excited. I love Anna Lee Ashford, so I'm in.
Gabu.
I mean, I'm married to you. I don't really have much choice on seeing it. I'm intrigued, for sure. I am super hyped on Jordan Fisher, who I love from so many things. What's the face?
Oh no, I just remembered that the Josh Groban and Annalee Ashford did a great Easter bonnet swapping skit. I'm trying to remember what they did this
Oh,
year.
fun. But yeah, it seems like a great cast with great energy, and that's super important for something like this. So yeah.
I'm just excited that it's an actor like Josh Groban taking the chance. He's a guy who's known for his vocals, and I think one of the things is so many people are like, I'm gonna play Sweeney like a crazy man, and like, I think Josh Groban just wants to come in and sing real good and look a little spooky.
Yeah.
And like, okay, you know, I think Mrs. Lovett is the star. I think she's the real draw here. I think what I want more than anything is a Sweeney Todd musical show, like 2 6-episode seasons, Act 1, Act 2.
I think we are so much closer to that than we've ever been. And I think that is kind of the joy of the era that we're living in insofar as when huge mistakes do happen with movies, your next best option is to be like, well, yeah, why don't we do it as a streaming show?
And I think that Crazy Ex-Girlfriend leading this musical TV show charged the way that it did. You know, I know there have been so many, it's just my first example, but specifically the way that it was generally between 1 and 3 numbers per week, like for an average of 2. And I think that showed how you can have a TV show that is this kind of dramatic musical and have it be something that can deliver on both fronts of being television and not oversaturating or underutilizing the musical elements.
So I want to zoom out for a moment. Kevo, can you show us all 6 amazing shows?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the revives.
There's a little bit less who's going to get it and a little bit more Tori. Guys, do you think any of these 6 will not be on the nomination list? Personally,
Dancin.
I think Dancin might not make the list.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's going to come down to Parade, Sweeney, or Into the Woods.
I was going to say, I feel like people are very comfortable not giving Aaron Sorkin awards for his bullshit.
And I think that 1776 just, as Tori said, ran afoul critically, you know, from not the production, the
vibes.
Yeah.
Bad vibes.
Yeah.
Vibes were bad. Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those where I actually don't even think that Into the Woods is really going to be on here anymore. Maybe if Parade hadn't come in, it would have still been a contender, but I really do think it's going to come down to Parade and Sweeney Todd, and I think Parade's going to take it.
Do you think that it's going to sweep?
No, I don't see actually any of the shows this year pulling any kind of sweep, except for maybe production. And I actually think the sweeps are going to come far more in the play categories, which apparently I prepared a little too much for, like a silly bean. But I think the musicals are going to be very scattered, for sure.
Guys, what do you guys think? Any votes if you think it's gonna go to Parade, Sweeney, Woods, Camelot, 1776, Dancin?
I do not know enough to comment on that in particular. I do think that the thing that I said about Parade, wherein, you know, I mean, this is true of all award ceremonies. I don't know enough about Tony culture to speak to that specifically, but we do love, you know, a convenient tragedy upon which to heap sympathy as a way of saying, like, our group gets it. That's why we gave it to those guys. And that's sort of it's just an instinct about human nature more than it is an understanding of anything that is going on in this particular subculture.
Yeah, it's a concern.
For sure.
And I certainly echo that.
I love when people think that Parade is like Carousel.
Yeah.
I told you I thought it was about Parade magazine, and I'm kind of disappointed that it's not.
Considering that I straight up said to Nico, I was like, hey, where's Daniel Radcliffe in all of this? And then I had to realize that, like, Merrily was already closed and off Broadway, and it's not going to come to Broadway till the fall. And I was like, right, Merrily is different from Parade. Like, I'm a mess.
It's far too happy a title, and that's why I really appreciate the playbill cover that they gave it. I'm not a huge fan of put the star on the cover of your playbill, And like I actually, until I was getting the material for this episode and saw that like, yeah, okay, that's a really old thing. There's one from like the 60s for Camelot with Julie Andrews on it. I was like, this is gauche, but I'm not going to call Julie Andrews gauche, so I take that back.
Yeah. It's what it is for me is that now all of a sudden whenever you replace that star, you have to have a new one. So then it becomes, is it about the star or is it about the show? Like for Chicago, yeah, you're every time you flip out Roxy Hart or Velma Kelly, you're gonna get a new one because it's stunt casting. That's the point of it. But we're moving into a world where we want less people on it and more just graphic design. And I think it's smarter in the long run to not have to change everything up every single time.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Tori, it has been a pleasure, a dream, an absolute scream, an amazing finale, a breathtaking opener, an entr'acte. It's been a couple of technical awards too, sound design, set design. You have given our production legitimacy, experience, and most notably, your personal touch. And I want to thank you for being here. And if you wouldn't mind telling us where we can find you in the future.
You can find me on Instagram at smtori and on Twitter at Tori_Sheehan, where I will probably be giving you my latest thesis on why Fat Ham and Leopoldstadt and Ain't No Mo is going to make it for a tough best play this year. So come on down, say hello, and remind me of my old life, because I do miss it a little.
Also, your tweets are protected, so good luck reading her tweets.
Oh, yeah. No, everything's protected because I'm looking for a new job.
So, Tori, until next time, thanks for hanging with us, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Bye!
Bye, Tori.
Okay, so now, are we still down for the game? Do we want to save the game?
It's up to you.
You the boss.
You're Mona. Well, I'm Mona, actually, but you're Angela, so.
That makes him. This one over here, Tony Danza. Yeah,
I am 100% Tony Danza.
You are 100% that Danza.
You don't dance enough for us.
I feel like I do.
Okay, that's fair. That actually is fair. You don't. That's what I'm thinking about it.
We did a thing where we wanted to pair off the drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race season 15 with matching musicals from this season. You see, there's 15 musicals this season, plus the Tony Awards themselves, as well as 16 amazing ladies in the season 15 crew. And we put together just like a little list of who might go in each one. And I'm pretty excited. So I think, should I go first, guys?
I mean, are we going to go play by play and each give our...
I figured we were going play by play.
Yeah.
Okay. So then...
yes, I'm going to have to look up each one because my list is queen by queen. But that's okay. This won't be that hard.
So to start with Anne Juliet, because I definitely did also do it queen by queen. I put Sugar. Oh no, you're fine.
I put Sugar too, and I'll tell you. I bet you did the same one for Spice that I did.
I was just like, you know what, Sugar, you are just the right kind of cute little queer for this show. Yep. You can come in and be like, where am I dingling at? Romeo, where am I dingling at? And
this kind of sucks. You kind of suck. This is great. You're great. Like, it's the vibe is exactly correct and the same. Sugar doing a cover of Kesha's Blow that is completely ill-advised on every level works for me.
You get that.
The cast recording one does not, people. So anyway, I actually love this one, and I will be campaigning for it to happen.
Kevo, I see you've weighed in with the same vote.
Yeah, I was getting ready for the broadcast, so I only had to do my homework on this one, and so I was like, I'll let them talk me into any of that ones that I don't have strong feelings on. And you know, I'd considered Sugar for this for sure, Amethyst as well, Like the fun, silly queens. But yeah, I definitely think Sugar is probably the better one for this.
Now, for Almost
Change
Famous,
over our music.
I actually, for Almost Famous, I put Spice here because
Oh wow, we have a different Spice pick. Okay.
I thought Spice would be like, I'm almost famous. Pick me.
Oh, I like that. I do.
So I
That's
love the
interesting.
idea of the fundamental misunderstanding of the assignment on Spice's part. For me, I chose Mistress because I feel like a role like Penny Lane or a groupie or somebody who is just like considered hot for kind of like just doing nothing but being a lady would just really work. I also, I loved like to challenge the convention of like what a groupie is and who's hot by having a big girl, somebody who would be traditionally told she's not attractive, just to be kind of the boss bitch of all the girls. I thought that'd be really fun. I wanted to give her kind of a high profile one befitting her station. So my pick for Almost Famous was Mistress.
You know what? I really like all of that. So I'm gonna also, especially for just, lack of really any better idea of what to do with her, I really get where I feel like she would really match the energy of that type of story and everyone being a little bit me first, even with a huge amount of softness underneath it.
Now, for Bad Cinderella, I said there's only one little queen who could do that. And that's, of course, Cinderella herself, Marsha. I just didn't think anybody else represented Andy Lloyd Webby the way that Andy Lolo Webby, the way Marsha could.
So I kind of feel like Bad Cinderella and Juliet are the same thing. So I chose Spice for this one because, she has to have the one with bad in the name because she's the bad Bratz doll. I feel like, she could take any of the roles. I feel like Stepsister is probably right where we want Spice in this particular situation, but like I see a lot of possibilities. Of all of these shows, this one I really did have the most. And Nico, when you said it, I immediately realized I actually maybe did not dislike any of the music, but maybe did dislike all of the lyrics.
Yes.
And so just that aspect of it, I was really like Sugar and Spice in these two shows that are spins on a classic tale that have an aspect of them that's really cool, but are like also face planting in a way, is just like, this is the twins at their most twin. Let's do it.
Okay, I see that. I think I am going to go with Miss Selena S. Titties.
Ooh.
Because I am trying to imagine someone who could perhaps elevate the work with their energy. I think it's something she matches the energy of, especially like how bombastic she can be. And I think that the emotion that she has would really also soften a lot of what is sort of caustic in Bad Cinderella.
I'll tell you what else. It would be fascinating to give the entire cast a Latinx bent. And
absolutely.
maybe even to let that filter into the production and the music a little bit.
Yeah, I think that would probably add a lot more to it, to something that really just sort of ended up feeling like you made it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Well, for the Neil Diamond musical, A Beautiful Noise. What, honey?
I'm
I
just
don't even
laughing.
know. What do you?
Oh no, I have an answer. I even got specific. I've cast a person in the role.
Okay.
In the role of old Neil Diamond, I've cast Mistress.
You're so mean.
I'm locking that in for you.
You are the worst. Would you
What
like
do you
to... expound on that decision at all, Nico?
No.
Okay.
I honestly think she would hate it. I think she would.
Yeah,
I
I get
definitely think she would hate it.
I want to hear her sing Sweet Caroline.
I love that. I gave it to Princess Poppy. I feel like she'd be really camp about it and
Very white.
Very white. I feel like I'm kind of punishing her, like give us more and we'll give you more. But also I feel like it would be one of those things where she would just do something really camp and funny and caustic, and it would be like she'd be like photo bombing this musical in a way that I think would be really funny.
Yeah. I wasn't sure on this one. Who do you even? But then I also, when I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, I guess Princess Poppy would be a good one for Beautiful Noise. Like you said, she would camp it up or something. Yeah. Who else do you even give it to?
Yeah.
I think Amethyst would really embody like the odd teenagerness of Kimberly Akimbo.
That's a good one.
She would really like give over to that sweetness, that childhood fun. And I would love to see Amethyst shine in that.
I gave it to Selena because I feel like the kids have a little bit of a bad kid bent to them, but with a ton of heart and a lot of sweetness and a lot of love for each other.
Yo, it's okay that you got progeria.
Yes, that is nailed it. I also wanted to give her one that I felt like had some prestige and hype. I think she can't sing. She did rap her song, but I want to believe that like when she gets it, she goes and gets voice lessons and it turns out has a really beautiful voice. And she also, Amethyst is it's funny. Like a lot of them don't feel like they could play teens, even the ones that seem young to me. Selena definitely seems older, but when I was looking at the cast, it's in that way where I'm like, but she could play a teen in this musical because that's how you do it. Yeah, she just felt right.
I hadn't really been sure what to do with Amethyst. I, thought about a few different places for her, but yeah, I really think, apart from maybe Bad Cinderella and Juliet, I think Kimberly Akimbo really matches her energy well. Yeah.
It's the song that I listened to about the girl who's like, this is all the ways that like committed fraud to stay alive. And I was like, I feel like Selena's titties could sing that song really well.
I feel like she's done it. Yeah.
Now I'm worried that this one maybe is a little too on the nose and I don't want to get any.
I think it's kind of the only option.
I do think it might be a problem if you don't put Aura on K-pop.
Yeah. I mean, she did kill this love. Like, come on, guys. Like, write in and give us a better option. You're racist.
For me, it's specifically the energy that she serves with her performances are very acrobatic and rigid and on the beat and intense and physical, and that's a lot more what I feel embodies K-pop. Absolutely.
Now, for New York, I had a hard time with this one, and I don't disagree with the casting. I did, but I gave this one. I gave this one to Jax, and
same.
It's because I thought that she could do a really good, thick New York kind of style dance, like a real heavy foot, a real outdoor energy, something very befitting of like the jazz of Candor and Ebb.
She moves very jazz-like, absolutely.
And I thought that she could really embody New York. The problem is I don't really see her at the moment as like a powerful scene-stealing center of the stage actress. So it's a little hard to put her in New York, but I see her in that very, Sid Charisse, I'm the dancer girl kind of role.
I mean, that's just the game. So, but yeah.
So I was not going to give her what she wanted and give Marsha Into the Woods, but I did want to give her something befitting of a New York queen who is really into theater and who is well trained. This was it for me. This felt like a really good place for her that she would think was not what she wanted, but then she ended up excelling at.
For Marsha?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like, given the source material and who has played the role in the past, I think this is a real star vehicle for a talented person who's motivated. So, I want to recognize that she is a talented person who's motivated, but I also want to recognize she's probably a brat and probably wanted Into the Woods, and I'm not giving her that.
Now, I did give someone what they wanted for this next one. I just kind of felt like Malaysia was the right person to put in Shucked, so that whether it's lip syncing, independently owned, or performing it, this way we're sure that a big, beautiful Black woman is playing that role, and it's not going to be Lucy. So I said Malaysia Baby Doll Fox.
Yeah, I think same, probably. It's a tough one because it's really good.
Yeah, I gave it to Lux. Lux is one of the few
Respect.
that has shown any ability to sing. And I feel like with real vocal training for whatever motivation, Lux could really sing. I thought this was a play that had really solid roles for a Black woman. And this is another one where I'm like, I know you want one that's fashion, but I'm not giving you that. I'm giving you the one where ultimately I think you will shine in ways that would shock people. And, it might not be your first choice, but I think you would be the biggest success at this one. And I think you're really talented. So I want to give you one that speaks to your talent.
I get that.
That's actually why I gave Lux the lead in Some Like It Hot.
Which I love. I think makes perfect sense. And actually is probably a better choice than mine. I gave Some Like It Hot to Jax.
I really, that's where I also could have seen Jax going. Yeah.
Yep. I thought, I don't know quite what the choreography is between the two, New York, or Some Like It Hot, but I knew that it should be a queen of color. I think it should be somebody who like Amber Ruffin can look at and be like, yes. And I felt like just Jax's ability to move and embody really spoke to me.
I gave it to Robin because I really feel like Robin got such an unfair edit this season, and she was always so sweet and had this really lovely energy that I think would bring something really wonderful to the lead of this. And so that's just sort of where it jumped out at me. Another person that I had down for it originally was Selena, because
nice.
I think that she also can show such a vulnerability when she chooses to. She can either be incredibly crass or she can be incredibly vulnerable, like in her lip sync for That's What I Want. So it would really depend on the energy that you brought to it, and I think that Robin would probably be a safer bet then.
Well, and that's why I put Robin in 1776. I thought with this, very gender flipped, racially reconstructed 1776, Robin carries herself with such a dignity that really does become a political figure. And so I felt Robin was the choice for 1776.
Yep. I chose Robin as well for exactly the reasons that you said. I also felt like it was potentially a chance to really costume beautifully. And I think that is a place that Robin has really shined. I just thought, like, if this is what they're going for anyway, where they are trying to gender flip to race flip to give us actors that we wouldn't normally see, this would be a place where like her gravitas and her, dignity and kindness would really come into play.
I, only know so much about 1776, but I find it to be very, dramatic and, bombastic in that way. So, in thinking of what I would find entertaining and who I think would take this role incredibly seriously in a way that I would very much enjoy, I had to go with Lucy.
Mm,
I would probably enjoy seeing that.
I love that. I think I can see it.
So for Dancin, for me, the choice here was Anitra.
Yep.
She's such a good dancer. I would just want to see her skills as a dancer celebrated. Not that I don't think she's an actress, but I just don't know. And I'm much more suited to seeing her dance.
Yeah, no, it was that simple. I want her doing Fosse choreography. Please. Thank you immediately. That's a done deal for me.
There's so many of these people that I keep forgetting people and I keep being like, fuck, I'm gonna have to find a person for that person. But I'm gonna go with who I originally thought of for this, which is Lux of all people.
No, I think that's another really good choice.
Anitra is a better dancer, but I think that Lux has a very unique physicality.
Yep.
With the shape of her body and the way that she moves in a way that I would be a lot more fascinated to see how she would do in Dancin, as opposed to anything I ever go see Anitra in for the rest of my life. I fully believe I am going to absolutely get my money's worth, and it doesn't matter what it is.
Fosse choreography also isn't super difficult. So Anitra's obviously the more skilled dancer, but Lux isn't bad, as we saw. I think she could kill all of the dancing, and the sort of fashion component of a Fosse stage show would really be good for Lux. I think you nailed that one.
Mm-hmm.
For this next one, for Camelot, I have Poppy down. It was just sort of like I had no one left, and Poppy's Guinevere. Sorry.
I, for Camelot, did Irene. I thought she would speak really well to the costuming. And we didn't see enough of her to really see what her acting chops are or anything, but Irene in a Sorkin joint somehow, I don't know, it could work.
I'm gonna give this one to Marsha. Very similar vibes to Into the Woods, but a lot more classical.
I actually gave the role of the witch in Into the Woods to Irene. I thought,
wow,
you're kind from cursing me
because she's an alien swamp witch. She's alien spooky.
That would be good.
I gave it to Malaysia. I thought makeup. I wanted to give her. I know that's her thing. I thought she could do really interesting and unique makeup, and I thought it's a perfect place for a young Black queen to be that we wouldn't normally see one that would be kind of a positive disruptor.
So I realized I had backed myself into a conundrum where I was going to end up with Spice as the host. Because I was going to say I'd love to see Anitra as the witch, as pretty much anything. So instead, I'm going to toss Spice in here because you know what? A really dopey Red Riding Hood, or something like that. I think she could probably pull that off with her little prance.
As a Jacqueline?
Yeah.
Okay, not because I'm a big fan, but I gave Lucy Parade, and it's because I genuinely believe Lucy would take it too seriously, and you need to take Parade too seriously.
Yeah.
So I gave Parade to Lucy.
I gave it to Amethyst off the assumption that she's Jewish. I still don't know that we know that for sure. But if that's right, nailed it. And if it's wrong, I'm the problem. So Amethyst, either way, you're great.
This is actually where I was going to put Irene. I think she gives such dramatic vibes. I would be interested to see what she could bring to that.
I'm sorry, did we all save Sasha Colby for Mrs. Lovett and Sweeney Todd?
No.
My alternate for that would be Lucy, though. That was something that I came to, where I was like, my alternate as a Mrs. Lovett for Sweeney Todd would definitely be Lucy. I think
Mine
I'd
is
prefer
Lucy.
Sasha. Okay.
Lucy has shown that she is committed to horror.
Yeah, I get that.
She is committed to being over the top. And she would thrive in a role where you can do it if you can't sing well. If you can, it's a whole other thing, but you
That's
can
true.
make the role work if you can embody, like, especially like horror, if you can embody that type of woman, but you can't necessarily sing the best.
Helen and Bottom Carter disagrees.
Master of the house. Okay. No, Sasha
Oh my
Colby
God, I
is of
forgot
course
she was
the
that.
host.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a great selection. I think I ultimately, by picking Spice where I did, ended up with Anitra, who also would be great host, fun
She
energy.
would do an incredible rap like Ariana DeBose.
Yeah.
I have Selena Estides hosting for that reason.
She was high on my list too. I think that's a
Another
great choice.
host. Yep.
Wow, this was so much fun, guys. I loved this.
Yeah.
Now, we have some amazing broadcasts coming your way. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., we're doing a rundown of how everything is changing at Marvel these last couple of months. It's going to be a great time. It's sort of the end of an era for Marvel with changes over in the X-Books, Daredevil, the Avengers, a new series for Blade because he's out of Avengers now. Lots of great stuff. Then next week, we have some groundbreaking stuff for us, and I'm so excited. On Saturday at 3-ish or 4-ish, we'll figure it out. We are going to be covering Final Fantasy in a way we've never done on here. We've got the pixel remasters for Final Fantasy 1 through 6, as well as Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. We're going to be talking a little bit about my favorite game series ever. Very excited about that. Before Sunday, we look at everything Guardians ever, basically.
Everything MCU Guardians.
After that, we've got some exciting stuff coming up like Drag Race All-Stars and Muppet Mayhem on Disney+, plus The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom right after it comes out in May. So we've got a really exciting docket. We've expanded into some new stuff. We're seeing some great reaction to it. We love doing this stuff with you guys. All said and done, I love learning from Tori. I love doing musicals. Musicals are my thing. And I'm just so glad to have done this with you guys. Shucked forever, Sweeney Todd. I'm glad they're not putting people in the corn. That's just Soylent Green. But,
Not a musical ever? Probably,
no,
right?
Not yet, but
It's
give
coming.
me time. Oh, also, I need to do this. So I do have a body of work that I can point to. If you happen to own the rights to Miss Congeniality, I would like to do the Miss Congeniality musical. I would really like to see Sutton Foster. I'm going to say her name for real.
That's as serious as us.
Yeah, that's as serious this is. In a lead role, very open ideas about casting actresses of every color. I'm absolutely thrilled to have non-binary but femme presenting people in roles. I'd be leaning into drag for some performers. I don't give a shit. There's a lot to that musical that would be great. So if you happen to own the rights to Miss Congeniality, hey, what's up? Oh no, that was my sexy high. Hello.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It's a modern business age. I don't know.
Let me write your music.
Give them a show. Let's
Right.
out. Yeah.
So I can't wait till we do more of that amazing content that we've been mentioning. But until then, TK, how was your first time foraying into musicals on the show?
It was great. I mean, Tori comes in and schools me on a subject where I know so much more than she does, comic books. So it's kind of refreshing for it to be one where I expected that she would know more than me. That was, not heartbreaking like every time she just has hotter X-Men takes than I do, but whatever. And I listened to a bunch of new music. And I Googled through a lot of confusion, which is just kind of my day anyway. So why not do it with musicals?
Why not? Kevo, was this everything you've been looking forward to and more?
It's everything I've ever dreamed of ever since I was a little girl. It was fun. It was exciting. I'm glad that we talked about a lot of these musicals. I'm excited for us to see them as a family. Uh, Picked up some new things to listen to, so that'll be exciting.
This for me was exactly what I wanted it to be, kind of a homecoming of everything that I love. And now we're going to do the true New York experience, and we're going to go finish this off with some Chinese food. So,
I'm so excited.
oh yeah, scallion pancakes
So
after a
jealous.
musical. That's how you do. So, all right. Until we come back, where can everybody find you, TK?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at xnateXgrayX.
All right, Kevin, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on the socials at Kevoreally, Kevoreally.
Hey, Kevin, where can everybody find my work?
Oh, you mean your award-winning comic book work in the anthology series Young Men in Love that I mocked up a new advert for last night that I'm very excited to share. Thank you for knowing me so well. And
I
you
got
are
you.
welcome for loving you so well, because you work so hard and you're so smart, and this was a really cool project that you should be very proud of. And yeah, there you go.
Oh, there's not enough light. That's why it's doing it. It's like shading.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Now that I look like
God.
I've become part of the wall, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION. And until we come back next time, remember, guys, keep your lights lit, keep your gateways open. Don't forget, we're going to be covering some amazing new stuff like video games, movies, musicals, and more every Saturday and Sunday for the rest of time. So until then, like, subscribe, and love us.
Please. We'll love you too.
And we'll see you.